The moment I stopped using Instagram like a personal portfolio and actually treated it as a marketing channel to get clients, that is when everything changed for me and my business. I went from making $200,000 a year to over $1 million a year, 3 years in a row now. And in this video, I'm gonna show you the simple Instagram strategy that made me over $4 million in cash collected over the past few years. So make sure you stay until the end because I'm breaking down the biggest Instagram mistake I see business owners make and how to fix it. But first, there's something important you need to understand. So like I shared with you, I went from making $200,000 a year to $1 million a year, 3 years in a row. And it wasn't because I got better at making pretty or aesthetic content. It was because I finally started to understand how Instagram works for business owners. And that's when I realized that Instagram isn't about art, it's about client acquisition, and that changed everything for me. So compared to before, I used to be just like you. I would take 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours a day to make one friggin' Instagram reel. And it's crazy to me because as we know as creator entrepreneurs, when you make an Instagram reel, you're not directly getting paid for that. So it's kind of frustrating when you spend 2-3 hours making content, but then actually converting that into a sale is not as simple as just putting that post out there. So when I talk about the actual kind of content that converts, it's not talking about aesthetics or quality in terms of production value, like having a fancy studio like this. If you look at my Instagram reels, you're not gonna see any of that. I film most of my reels on my iPhone. But I'm talking about a strategy that actually converts your content into paying clients in less than 2 hours per week. Because you see, I did all of my content myself for my first 2 to 4 years in business. And it was only in the last year or so that I actually brought in help on the content side. And it's because you don't actually need to have any sort of crazy produced content to make $1 million a year in your business. And this is what we teach our clients every single day inside of the Creator to Cashflow Academy. And this is where I'm seeing most people get it wrong. It's that Instagram is just the top of the funnel and it's not the entire business. And that is what we're gonna go over in this video. You see, when I was dancing on TikTok in 2021 and just starting out as an influencer, not really sure what I wanted to do with my brand or even about building a business, I had a ton of viewers, but they were just watchers. Before I actually break down the system in just a second, what I wanna do is I wanna actually show you exactly how you could create your content in just 2 hours per week using Instagram Organic and just your iPhone. So go ahead and click the first link in the description and I'm gonna give you the full breakdown. Now let's get into it. So first things first, I think it's important to understand that I have just one person fully in-house inside my team. I've used agencies, I've used social media managers. I've also been a social media manager myself. The problem is when you go to create your content and you actually bring on help, what you start to realize is that you are the creative genius and the creative brain and the creative director of the brand. So you can't be outsourcing your genius. You have to still be the top of the system, but they're just focused on the execution. Now, they could bring in their creativity when it comes to designing carousels or making edits, but you have to have the creative direction of the brand because that is the actual substance, and that's actually how you're gonna get clients. And this is why there's a difference between production value as quality and the quality of the messaging and the actual thing that you're saying. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna pick my main platform where I actually wanna focus my time and my energy. So for me in this current season is Substack. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just saying that you have to pick one piece of long form content that you could commit to every single week, whether that's Substack, email newsletter, podcast, YouTube video, and that's gonna be the spine of the content. So if we go ahead and we look at my recent Substack post, my first Substack post was, you don't get an extraordinary life by being normal, right? So I actually really took the time to write this out. I mean, this took me like 2 to 3 hours to write. Now, this was the first time I ever did a Substack, so obviously it's going to take me significantly longer. But this became the spine of the emails that were going to go out the next upcoming week, the carousels, and some of the Instagram stories. Now, I think it's really important that when you're building your 2-hour-a-week content system, you're only picking one thing per each day that you're going to post. So for example, when I first started, I was just focused on doing 7 B-rolls a week because those were my lead generating reels. Now, because I have help, I'm able to do B-rolls and carousels and stories and all this stuff. But my baseline strategy is 1 reel a day that takes you 10 to 15 minutes to make, 1 to 3 Instagram stories a week that are going to generate you leads, and maybe, just maybe, 1 email a week because you are bringing people onto your email list from your Instagram account. So I'm going to show you the more advanced version for the sake of this video and how I do it in 2 hours a week with 1 team member. But just know there's still that basic version that you can follow, and that is what I teach in my freebie in the first link in the description. So after we do the spine, basically what I have my team member do is I have her come in here and I have her start creating. Now, her job is to ship 25 pieces of content each week. I see people sometimes hire people for hourly and agency work and creative scope and blah, 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 blah. I find the easiest thing is to just agree on the deliverables and then say whatever it's going to take to get you there. So what she'll do is she'll write the different types of posts in the different formats, and then she'll put it all together and she'll mark them as ready for Giulia. So for an example, right, the post from last week, today is Thursday when I'm filming this, Friday mornings is when I do the final version. So right now everything is kind of still in editing, but the stuff from the prior week is scheduled. So this part is pretty easy, right? Anybody can make a Notion board, you can make a ClickUp calendar, whatever it is. The thing that really took me the most amount of time, and I would say about 1.5 years to figure out, is actually building a workflow where you can bake in different deadlines and deliverables so that you guys can follow a strategy. You know, most of the time when I work with people on my team, we're on different time zones. We have different schedules, right? It's not like we have some typical, like everybody logs on at 9, everybody logs off at 5. It's kind of like each person is in their own groove, and that's why we work on deliverables and outcomes. So for example, right, if we're looking here, you can see stage 0 is the Substack post. Then stage 1B is the creative direction, which is then about 2 full days to actually get the creative direction. So it's like you have the Substack post. Now you're going to outline the 25 posts per week. Then I approve the copy. So this is such an important step, and I really want you to listen up here. You want to make sure that whether it's you or your content person is writing out the copy first before you start editing. So that goes for B-rolls, that goes for carousels, that goes for emails. Because the thing is that design and editing becomes extremely simple once the copy is confirmed. It's very frustrating to design like a full carousel and then you hate the entire concept, you hate the hook, and now the whole carousel is jigged up. So basically what we do is we make the creative direction, which is the copywriting, due Tuesday at 7 p.m. Then by the next morning at 9 a.m., because I do my deep work in the mornings, all the copy is now approved. Now it goes into editing. And then by stage 4, that's due on Fridays at 9 a.m. So now my content creator's entire workday on Friday is just scheduling and finishing touches, if there's maybe some last minute edits from there. And then the most important part is the data and the analytics. So actually having a scorecard where we're looking at the data every single week. And I think this is so important. Now, most of this stuff, like I find, does not exist when it comes to having these as like templates and guides. So if this is something that you guys would be interested in, like having a scorecard template, go ahead and comment. So I would love to hear from you if this is something that would help you grow your business. I know for us, you know, data is so important and the Instagram analytics really aren't that great. So what we do is we actually score and tally the data every single week. So we could see, for example, in January, we grew 3,574 new followers. That's net new followers. So I'm not talking about unsubscribers. I mean, there was actual growth on the account. You could see that we got over 7,000 leads on ManyChat opt-ins. And we added 1,400 people to our email list. So this is actually helping us see and make good decisions where, okay, could we get maybe more people onto the email list out of the 7,000 because we converted X percentage from ManyChat to the email list? Absolutely. Now we could focus our time and energy on making our opt-ins a little bit stronger and getting that conversion rate up. So then by the end of February, we can ask ourselves, did the actions we took actually grow the account, but also grow the business? So now you've learned how to make the content, but what is the biggest mistake creators, business owners, educational people on Instagram that are posting high value content, like what is the mistake that you are making? And this is something that I see time and time again. And for years, people shit on me. They were saying, Giulia, you don't know what you're talking about, Giulia this, Giulia that. But now they're the same people asking me, how did you grow 100,000 followers, but still also manage to make over $1 million a year in your business? And that is really understanding that Instagram is a top of funnel platform. Let me explain. Most people look at Instagram as their personal portfolio. And I'm not just talking about pictures and videos that are aesthetically pleasing. I'm talking about actually just posting stuff for your current audience and your current followers. The problem is Instagram is no longer a platform where things show up in chronological order, nor is it a platform where your friends and your family are keeping up like they would on Facebook. You are a personal brand creator, and your job is to every day build your top of funnel content to keep getting new leads and new followers because you need to build your brand. And I don't think that this is talked about enough because, everybody wants to talk about leads and opt-ins and followers and yada, yada, yada. But what about actually building your brand while building your business? And this is the secret. So the biggest mistake creators are making is that they're posting content just for their current audience, and they're not actually posting content to get new people into the top of the funnel. And now just hold on, stay with me. I know you're now gonna be like, well, Giulia, so what do I do after that? If I'm just getting top of funnel content all the time, they don't know me, they don't get to actually see what I'm about, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's where you have other steps to your funnel. So you could have a YouTube channel, you could have an email list, you could have a Substack, you could post maybe a few talking videos a week, you could post some stuff on your stories, right? So everything that comes after Instagram is where the money's made. But once you understand that Instagram is purely a lead generation platform, the game is going to change for you forever. When you understand how the algorithm works. The way you're going to grow your brand and your business is by getting more views and more eyeballs. But we all know as business owners, that's just vanity and it's not going to actually translate into sales. So what we have to look at is the actual operations and behind the scenes of what happens after somebody opts in. So this is where, for example, we follow my cash philosophy. So C, content, right, in the cash method, this is where most people end the funnel. They just post content, and then what happens after that is they just think people are gonna pay $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 to buy their thing. That is absolutely ridiculous. So what you need to do is you need to get people into a ManyChat funnel, into an email sequence. One thing we started doing this year is instead of just giving low effort freebies like a 2-page PDF, we actually built a whole 7-day email course that nurtures, delivers value, lands in somebody's inbox every single day. And the feedback that we've gotten is insane. I was on a call last week with somebody, let's call her Sally. Sally said to me, Giulia, when I was reading your email course, I felt like you were reaching into the depths of my soul. I felt like you knew exactly what I was going through. It didn't feel like AI slop. And it's because I actually took the time to build that one time, and we've had thousands of people opt into it. So to tie this all together, I had this client, Lisa, and Lisa had way more followers than me, at the time, over 130,000. And some people might think, well, why is she hiring you if she has more followers than you? It's because her business was only making about $10,000 to $12,000 a month inconsistently. Once she understood the business behind Instagram, we made such a perfect combination because she was still doing her top of funnel strategy, but now she actually understood how to convert people on the back end. So for example, just one of the Instagram story templates we gave her, she put out to her story and she got 400 plus leads that came into her inbox that were actually qualified leads for her high ticket offer. Then we helped her build a sales system and sales infrastructure, and she made over $30,000 a month, and she 3x'd her monthly revenue just using our strategy. So the last thing I want to give you is some actionable advice, because you saw my system, you saw the workflow, and now you understand this Instagram strategy that has made us millions of dollars. I want you to actually go look at your last 30 posts and look at, where did these lead to, right? Did you actually nurture the people that commented? Did you have a strong enough freebie? Did you set a pre-call nurture sequence to book people onto a sales call? Did you even pitch them a sales call to actually pitch your offer in front of them? I want you to look at the posts, but I also want you to look at what happened behind them and ask yourself, what is the number one thing that is missing? Because listen, I used to watch all these courses and, consume all this content, and all these people were just kind of looking like they just post an Instagram reel and all of a sudden they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank account. But the truth is, everybody has some sort of conversion mechanism and conversion system. And if you want the simplest, easiest, high ticket converting system for Instagram organic for this year, and with the way the market is going with AI, organic content, what I want you to do is I want you to click the first link in the description, and I'm going to show you exactly how niche experts, online coaches, and course creators are scaling to $250,000 per year using organic content with a straight line path to $1 million a year. We help people in making their first 6 figures, and we even have a few testimonies of people helping them make their first million, because this strategy not only works at the 6-figure level, it is the same strategy you're then going to use as the foundation and the baseline to scale to 7 figures. So if you want my personal help and my team's help, I would really encourage you to book a business audit call, and you can find the link in the description for that. On this call, it is not like some gimmicky sales call. It is purely to actually audit your business and see where you're stuck. On this call, we'll use the theory of constraints to understand exactly where the business is constrained right now, and show you your 90-day path to get you to where you want to be, and show you that straight line path to scaling to the revenue level you want to be at in the next 6 to 12 months. And if you want to learn exactly how I close high ticket sales from the Instagram DMs, go ahead and watch this video next, and I'll see you in the next one.